Okay, so I'm actually going to start off with a story that I heard last week. My daughter's Menehelet, the principal Menucha Levi, is the daughter of Rav Shimshon Pincus Zatzal. And she was saying that during the Shiva of her father and mother and sister, right, Lo Aleinu, so she had a brother who was still in yeshiva. And Rav Tower, he came to Menachem Evel. And this is what I understood what she said, hearing it from her. So she said that he came, and they're very, very, very close. They were very close with him. The Rav Pincus was very close with Rav Tower, and they worked together a lot for Kiruv, and they were very close. And he was telling them, like, here he is a Holocaust survivor, right? And coming from a place where everyone lost everything, and my understanding is he was giving the message of, like, you're going to be able to rebuild. You know, we lose everything and we rebuild, and B'ezrat Hashem. And she stopped him, she said, you know, like, likvod Rav, but no, you can't compare your situation to ours. Why? Because when you went through Lo Aleinu, and no one can understand what anyone went through in the Holocaust. She said, however, you all went through it together, and to a certain extent, whoever was left survivors had something that they were, like, there were communities of literally no grandparents. There were communities with no parents. I don't think anyone in my mother's generation grew up with a grandmother or grandfather because there was no one, right? She said, but my brother, he lost both his parents, and he's going to go back to yeshiva, and he's alone. No one else is sharing with him in this. And Rav Tower said, you're right, that actually the nisayon of our door is to be alone. It's going to be a battle that you will fight alone. And we see in this week's Parsha something very powerful about that. So first we have Vayishlach Yaakov Melachim Lefanav El Esav Avchiv, right? So Yaakov, he sends these Malachim. And Rav Moshe Boyer brings a very famous Vayishlach Yaakov, these Malachim. He brings in from Mishlei. It's a commentary on Mishlei, that it's an example of, if I know, there's two examples that's brought down about it in comparison to this. Let's say I go up to this bulldog and the dog is sleeping, and I take the ears and I just squeeze the dog's ears, or I like pull them. You know what's going to happen? The dog's going to bite me. And the Mishlei says, and if you go to Listim, if you go to, you know, they're sleeping, like you have this gang and they're sleeping, drug dealers and criminals, and you go up to them with like your Rolex watch, and, you know, driving up in your BMW, and you honk the horn to wake them up. Well, like, what are you doing? So it also asks Yaakov, what in the world are you doing? Why are you sending? What are you trying to arouse here? You know, what are you trying to waken up here? And not only what are you doing, but the fact that you did that. What is the next thing that comes back when he sends these malachim? Tell me what's up with he's saying Galti and Lavan, you know, he's giving all this news. But what happens? They come back, Vayishuv malachim el Yaakov lemer, banu el achicha el Esav, v'gam olech likatecha, v'arba me'ot ish imo. You woke him up, now he's coming after you with 400 men to attack you. So what does Rav Moshe Boyer say? He says, do you realize your thoughts? You know, and I personally feel that my life, my biggest battles, and this is what I was talking, Rabbi Menucha said, Rebbe Menucha Levi said about her and the Shiva of her parents, and Rav Tower said to her, our generation's biggest battles is you being alone, and your thoughts that you're bringing. And what kind of energy are you bringing when you're thinking this negative thought? This is the concept of it. It's like taking the dog's ears and squeezing them or pulling them and waking him up. We are literally bringing this down. You know, the thing we fear comes right back to us, you know, the worries, so then what happens with Yaakov? Okay, so he did that. You're not allowed to litarer Torah. Don't wake up this bad, but he did it. And then what happens? It says, V'yara Yaakov me'od v'yitzar lo. Okay, Yaakov got scared, and guess what? That made him witzal. The fact that he was afraid, that causes him to have suffering, right? And then he realizes, okay, I got to do something here. And what do we know? We have the 3 steps towards what I'm going to do. And he davens to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and he says to Hashem, please, like he's asking him, and he says, I love it so much. Every time I start thinking about the song of Aaron Reisel, you know, the Kantim Kol HaChasidim, right? He comes in humility, and I think this is just such the key that we have, even within, we have to understand something. I know a lot of times you're about to, like, you're about to go do something, so you daven beforehand. Like a person is about to, a person, I think before they go out on their a date of a shidduch, they would daven before and say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if this is the right person, let it be so clear, and if it's not, let it be clear. We daven always. Sometimes we forget that also when we go to the supermarket, we have to daven, and when we, walk down the street, we have to daven, and every single step of the way, we're trying to do something, and we want to Teyad Shemaya, of course we need to daven. But we don't realize that also we need to daven, Hashem, don't let me have these thoughts. Like sometimes we're not understanding that the davening is also, Hashem, help me to want to get close to you and help me to want to be calm. Sometimes I don't even want it, because sometimes I get stuck also in kind of feeling good and feeling sad or bad or frustrated or angry, and you're like, and sometimes you're comfortable. I don't want to say wallowing, because no one wants to be in pain. No one wants to be in pain, but sometimes we don't have we think we don't have the koach to get out of the pain. So we stay in the painful thoughts. But you know what? You're right. We don't have the koach. So therefore we say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I am so small. I can't do this. It's all chesed. I need you to help me. I need you to help me in this moment of frustration, this moment of, this moment of feeling bad, even this moment even of sadness. Not that we're not allowed to experience it, because people are always asking me, Elana, where's the space? Come on, you're not letting us be able to feel. It's not that I'm not saying that. You're feeling it. I don't even need to tell you not to feel it, because it's there already. But we do want to get out of it. And the first step though is tefillah. And even it's brought down that if actually Yaakov had just actually davened before each of the things, then he wouldn't have lost so much money and all that he gave Yaakov, that all he sent for Esav in the briberies. But that's a different sugya. So here we see our greatest battles are really the ones that we are when we are alone. And why? Because we're getting stuck in a time. And I'm going to explain in a minute. Soon we're going to understand. So I want to then just skip a little tiny bit ahead also to see this, right? All of a sudden it's Laila, Vayikam b'Lailahu, right? It's nighttime. And we know that Yaakov, he comes and he takes his family, he splits them up, right? He says that if, Esav's going to come, so at least maybe he'll attack this and not this, which is like it's a good strategy actually in general to divide and conquer sometimes. Or just also like when you feel like there's too many things happening in your life, I'm like, kids are fighting, I'm like, just put them in different, like, not punishment. It's not that I'm separating, it's just separate, calm the situation, distraction. Also, like, not all your money should go into one basket, so to speak. We were told that by Chazal. Don't make an investment, all your money into one thing. It's not just investment of money, but your time, your energy. Like, what's going to happen if you dedicate 4 years of your life to an energy? Also, yes, it's true. You'll be able to focus, but a little bit strategy, split up a little bit, that you don't feel also, I feel, this is in my own personal life, I find this to be very true. So he splits them up, and then we know that all of a sudden, right, it's night, and Yaakov is alone. He's mamash alone. So again, here we are in these battles alone, Vayivak, and imagine the dust coming up as they're fighting, I'm thinking about also that, like, feeling that sensation of like everything is just, I can't see clearly. The concept of feeling that they're fighting, that it's called vayavek, avak is dust, right? That it's like coming up from their feet. I can't see. When it starts to, I'm allergic to dust actually. My nose, my eyes, I start, I can't see. I don't have my clarity. And he's fighting with him until you get clarity. Alot hashachar, which is the darkest moment, but right before the light, right? And we're in that obscurity and we're fighting. And then it's just a beautiful scene that we've read and heard many times, but I looked at it very differently. So then we have them, and the actual malach, the angel, we don't know the angel's name, right? And it's brought down that each angel has its tafkid, and that would be his name. He has a purpose, he has a mission, he knows exactly what he needs to do, and that's his essence, and that's his name right now. And Yaakov is saying to him, the angel, says, first of all, let go of me, right? And Yaakov says, no, I'm not going to let go of you until when? Until you give me a bracha. So what's interesting here is we're not getting any, we're having a lot of questions going on here, but we're actually not getting answers, right? And he says to him, your name is no longer Yaakov, okay? And why? It says your name now is going to be Israel. Why? Because you fought two things. You fought with Elokim ve'im anashim. Okay, there's this aspect of fighting on a ruchnius level, and there's an aspect of fighting on a real human level, and you know what? You prevailed. So then we know that that was the bracha. Wait, that was the bracha? Yeah, because he let go of him. He hit him, and the angel on the way out, gives him that final punch, And then again comes this idea of the sun coming up, and even though Yaakov is still limping, because every single trauma and suffering we go through in our lives, we're not supposed to just you burn yourself, you will have a scar. You will have a scar. You acknowledge the scar, you have it. So he did go off limping, but there's a healing going on also within the limping. Why? Because he got the bracha. Because he saw the blessing in what I went through. There's a reason. And what is this huge, big blessing that he went through? Which is this is going to be the theme of this shir, and how we also get out of those thoughts, and how we face our biggest battles, and how we come to a point where we can be seeing the sun. And also, this is very connected to Hanukkah, which is very connected to this Parsha in many ways, is the bracha that he gave him, which is, your name now is Israel. So there's two elements of that bracha. Number one, it's brought down that the word Yisrael can be broken up into many different things. Yishar Kel, also all the imahot and avot, the acronyms. But what I learned at Chidush this year from me was it also is broken down into Rosh Li, which is Hashem is saying that when you find yourself in this fighting, right? And it's actually something that's the Yaakov is the heel. It's very something that's pulling you down. It's like you feel like you're being stomped on, and you're stomping on somebody else. You're pulling down. Hashem says, Rosh Li, put your head in me. Get close to me. Really, the machshavot, the thoughts that can be changed, are the ones that Hashem, you are with me, and you're going to help me with this. And going back to Katanti, that I'm so small, I need you. And that my biggest battles are even when we're between men, it's actually between this spiritual realm of a malach that has a mission. And what's so important about it is that he said to him, it's like he was saying to him, the malach says, almost just like I have a mission, you need to keep your mission, Israel. Yaakov, your mission is to be Israel. Be close to me all the time with your head. That is the mission of Am Yisrael, is to always have the Rosh with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's a powerful thing. We're given this mission. And we're given it to be in that in every situation, which turns your whole entire life in a different direction if you think this way. And this is MS. So
it's interesting that it's Rosh and not
Lev.
Feelings, right?
Okay, so good question. Why Rosh and not feelings? Because your Rosh actually affects your feelings.
Right.
So if my thoughts are this, I bring this. I'm sorry, but we have our early morning share, so I'm always bringing the morning routine down of feeling like I am a frenzied kookaroo to trying to get everybody. I have so many different time slots, also of trying to keep everybody straight. Who gets up when, where? Dropping this one yeshiva katana. The little one trying to get his pants on. This one hungry. This one needs to go to high school. This one needs to go to school. This one needs a tea. This one needs a snack. And then I'm and the thing that sets me off is that why didn't you put your dirty clothes last night? That's one more thing that I have to do this morning, right? And you're in this frenzy, and I'm telling you, I'm in a frenzy because I'm forgetting I actually have a shlichut right now. And it's so hard. This is my hardest shlichut. It's easier for me to come and give a shir and smile and to be very holy in a holy way where we're all quiet. But when I have to get everybody in the morning and I'm so tired, and I slept for less than 5 hours, and I'm trying as hard as I can to make everybody happy with this one wants this for life. And my kids are not spoiled. It's not that they're coming from a place of spoiled. They're coming from a place of mommy who wants to give, because I do want it. Hashem is tov, derech hetiv. I'm trying to emulate my creator. But I get caught up in it because I forget about my creator, and I forget I'm doing good, and I forget I'm doing chesed, and I forget I'm bringing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's children to learn Torah, and I get just in the frenzy of the socks on the floor and the sandwich that's not going to get eaten. Maybe why do I have to make a sandwich? Why do they always have to have bread if they don't even want the bread, right? And you're going through all these things in the morning, and you're Rosh Li. I wish I'm going to put it all over my house. Rosh Li, just Rosh Li, Rosh Li. Really, what's my mission here right now? Right? Where's my machshavot? Also, does this serve me? I could feel sorry for myself until I'm blue in the face. It never served me. Really, it hasn't. Sometimes it's good. You want to talk a friend. You need to release it. That's good. But the long term, it's just it's this battle, and we need to add illuminate it with some light. So we have this, and he's fighting, and I want to go back actually a little bit, because there's something also very important in this time of the year. We're in Kislev, and we're right before Hanukkah, and we have so many things in this parsha. Whether it's the pach, this little tiny pach that Yaakov goes back for, and you should just know the Midrash brings down that when Yaakov Avinu woke up from his dream with the sulam, with the ladder, It says in the Midrash that he woke up and he saw this little tiny pach of shemen. I never knew that the little bottle of shemen, that's where he got it from. It wasn't just a little. It was, we woke up out of the dream, he sees this little shemen. That's the same shemen that later on Elisha used. It's the same shemen that the Chashmonia. It wasn't just like the bottle of oil that they found. It was something on a very higher level, that this oil was about replenishing and from nothing creating something. I want you to keep that in mind. From nothing to create something. Yaakov went back to hold on to from my moments where I feel like there's nothing left. I don't have enough. I don't know how we're going to pay the expenses. From something like, Hashem, let me just find an envelope that I can put in a 1 shekel, and I'm going to let lismach that you will create something from the nothing, because only Hashem can do that. But I have to do something, right? So that's the Pach HaShemen. So then we have that. Then we have also, it says that after this encounter, Yaakov, he nasa l'Sukkot, which this whole idea of Sukkot, right? Yaakov Avinu died in Sukkot. 70 days later in Hanukkah, he was buried. This Nesiyah we're talking about is from Rosh Hashanah, where the person does what? They are written in the book of life. Yom Kippur, you're sealed. Hoshana Rabbah, it's sent off. But guess what? It's brought down by the Sifrei Kodeshim that in Hanukkah, Zot Hanukkah is actually when we're really. That means we have this whole time to work on ourselves. He traveled from Sukkot, right? Vayavan, it says he built Lo. Lo is Gematria 436. There, that's where he built his house. Bayit Lo, the Bayit, the Beis Hamikdash. All this time, lots of remezim, and also we have the story of Dinah, which is also remez of the women during the time of Chashmonim. But I'm going to put that aside, even though I'm going to bring in Hanukkah in a minute, and I want to go actually to something that happened before that has to do with this week's Parsha. Last week's Parsha, Rachel, okay, they're leaving Lavan, right? They're running away from him, really. I mean, right? And what's the encounter? It says that, first of all, Rachel, she took the talafim of her father. Okay, now I want to explain what these are. Rav Moshe Shapiro brings, which is just, for me, it was like, wow. I hope I give over this so beautifully as I think I understood it, and if not, Hashem should make you understand what you need to understand. But he brings down, what were these talafim? It wasn't a avodah zarah, actually. It wasn't that Lavan was bowing down to it, worshiping a little idol. They were the horoscope. It was a way of seeing the future. But let me explain. If I were to tell you, there's 2 ways of seeing future. If I were to say to you, I have an apple seed, and I see in the future it will become an apple tree, that's not really anything that's a chiddush. Do you understand? What it's basically saying is Lavan was living in a world where, like he says to Yaakov, your kids are my kids, your daughters are my daughters, everything that you have is mine. Why? Because that was his reality of his present, and he couldn't see it any other way. My reality of my present is if I have an apple seed, it will become an apple tree. And that's very easy for me in life. If someone says, all the time people are like, just tell me what to do. But in a way of life, because I don't want responsibility and I want to work hard. So let me go to a class, they'll tell you exactly how to follow the formula, and guess what? Your kids are going to come out perfect. Even the recipe. Give me the recipe, and you would think if I follow the recipe exactly as it says on, the TV, like the show or the this or that, why does my cake not look like the recipe says? Like, what's going on here? I have the ingredients. I says to follow the recipe in life, and if this is my future always, that I just don't want to work hard. Give me the recipe, Hashem, and I'll follow the script. So this comes from the lashon of really rapui, which means to relax. In life, I'd like to just be relaxed. Like, my relaxation is knowing that I don't really have to work on myself. How I am in the present, I'll just follow that going down. So he gives an example of Moshe Shapiro. For example, if I'm riding a horse, I'm the king's horseman. I don't know that's the rider of the horse, of the chariot. And I'm on the king's road, I can relax my hands because these horses know the derech. Guess what happens when all of a sudden, though, a bear comes up and screams at the horses, or a lion, or we get caught and we have to veer? Then I have to hold on tight, very strong hands. I can't relax. You know what? People don't want to do that. Hashem throws you a curveball. Last night a woman came to me. She was way over her due date, and she's like, "But my first 3 was exactly." I'm like, "Yeah, but there's no chazaka in life like that. Every experience, every child's going to come into this world differently." So you can't just be like, oh, I have the babies like I had them before, or this is going to happen to me like it happened before, or the salary is going to come like it happened last month. Hashem says, no, actually, we're not allowed to look at the future. That's sheker, like that. What did Rachel say? She wasn't trying to take from her father avodah zarah, because he didn't have avodah zarah. What she was trying to take from him is this to help him. Actually, she did it l'shem yichud kudsha b'richu, to connect to Hashem, to realize that your destiny isn't written in stone. You can actually change. Just because you are known as Levan Ami, and you know, all the things that you've done these past 20 something years to my husband, does that mean right now that you are stuck on that path forever? But what did Lavan do? He runs after and he says, why did you do this? You know, why, what's going on? And what is, first of all, why did you run away? And he's asking him his questions, and he's saying, what's going on here? And he's, you know, he's explaining, he's like, you stolen from me for 20 years. I worked for you. And he says, Yaakov says something very powerful, which we know, but what does he say? Im asher timsa et elokecha lo yichye neged achinu akelecha ma imadi lekach la. Oh, no, that's, wait 1 second. I'm sorry. So he says to him, no, here, Pasuk. Oh yeah, Yud Bet. He's basically, what he's saying is, if you find your gods, okay, right, whatever these things are, if you find it with somebody, that person's not going to live. Now, obviously, Yaakov did not know that Rachel had taken them. Right? Rachel lakachat et hatrafim, right? And what did she do? She put them under her and she sat on them. And then when her father came by, he's looking through all the things they're trying to say. She says, Kiderech nashim li, v'chapetz lo matzah. I'm like I'm the way of the woman, and right now, basically what she's saying is I'm tameh, like I can't get up. So what's brought down here? Okay, this is very intense. It's like so intense because we know now in this week's Parsha, Vayishlach, Rachel Imenu, our beautiful Mama Rachel, as they're entering into Eretz Yisrael, the last son to be born to Yaakov Avinu, and the only one born in Eretz Yisrael of all the Shevatim, is born Binyamin. And when we know that the Leida of this was kashe, very hard, right? Yisum beit kel v'hi od kivat ha'at lavo Efrat v'teled Rachel v'takashe b'leidata. It was very hard for her, right? She's on her way there by Efrat, which we know is Beit Lechem. We go to see Kever Rachel now. V'hi v'kshta b'leidata v'tomer la meyalelet al tirei gam ki gam ze lach ben. Don't worry, this is also going to be a son. She's telling the meyuledet, the midwife is saying it's going to be you're going to have a boy, and then it says v'hi batset nafsha ki mita. Rachel dies, okay, and you should just know that it's very batset nafsha. Her soul came out of her ki mata. If she's dead, doesn't her neshama come out of her nefesh? And that's where we understand that there are people who die, and they come back right away. Like you have these kind of clinical deaths where the person says and they see things. That's one of the rayas in Torah where it's a true thing. First people, because otherwise two things happen. You die, met, but also your nefesh goes out, or nefesh and dying, right? So, and then she, though, before she dies, what does she name him? Ben Oni. The son of my Oni, suffering, right? Va'aviv kralo Binyamin. But his father names him what? Binyamin, the son of my right. Okay. Very, 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 very hard for a woman to read that story, I have to tell you. But, and I also have to understand what's going on. Rachel wouldn't have died. It doesn't matter what Yaakov said. I know, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying chas v'chalila. The gezerah is a gezerah of a tzaddik. But it's still, only if she was meant to die at that moment would this have happened. It's not that Hashem has the exact zman that a person is going to pass in this world. Why did it come about that way? Because there was a tzaddik who gezerah that way, maybe, right? Or that, because he said this. When Rachel took away this future, which was sheker of her father, it was a midah keneg midah that actually Yaakov said that you took away his future, your future will be taken from you. But the reason why that's also, but wait a minute, that's not, one's emes and one's sheker. I don't understand. What kind of future are we talking about? So when he talks about, Rav Moshe Shapiro brings down, what is a Navi, for example? Also, we have this concept, I'm going to tell you the future. A Navi brings down, his prophecy is something that is not happening in the present. It's not the apple should becoming an apple tree. It's that you have not listened to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and there will be destruction, which is the opposite of what you would think is going to happen right now. Or you're barren, and I'm coming to tell you next year you're going to have a child. The Navi comes and brings a completely and totally different reality of what could happen if you hold on tight, don't be relaxed, hold on to those reins with your right hand, and drive your horses in the right direction. Drive your thoughts in the right direction. Drive your life in the right direction. Your future is not written as just inertia of going on. You can change. It's so what he was saying. Why is this so powerful? When Rachel died, she didn't die. She did die, but we believe in chayiv v'metim. So what she had that she was going to pass away, and there's other reasons why. Also, you cannot that when once they entered Eretz Israel, you couldn't have two sisters married to each other. There were also other reasons why it would be that Rachel Imenu would pass away at that day, even before they entered before. But this was actually proving what schar she actually had, because there's nothing more life and saying that there's a chitchut, there's a newness, than actually giving birth to a new child. The newest thing you can create in this world is to bring an Hashem into this world and have a new life start, day one. Meaning, just by bringing a child, I'm proving to the world that my future is not sealed, because there's a newness. And what was one of the things that the Hashmonaim, they didn't give us taxes, right? We talked about this. They didn't tell us, you can't, they didn't take away our Beis HaMikdash. They didn't take away anything. They took away Chokhmah Torah, which is, there's something so, the concept, Torah is constantly give you, how can you read something, learn the same Parsha 30 times and 30 times see it differently? It's all the time chitchut. It's all the time shining the light in a different way and unreal, the Shivim Panim Torah. It's something that's beyond. It gives you such simcha. A chidush gives you simcha. What gives you simcha? You buy a new dress. You buy a new suit. Shechianu, right? Chidush gives us simcha. A child coming into this world is such a big simcha. Not only they said no Torah, they said no Shabbos. Also, Shabbos is a rejuvenation every week. It's supposed to be. It gives you. It's the makor of kol bracha of all the week. And Brit Milah is that you can be a new person, actually, to a certain extent. You're now part of a community, of a people, Am Yisrael, that is constantly working on themselves, but also they took away for us Chodesh. They did not want us to have Rosh Chodesh. Even because, number one, it's our first mitzvah we were given to as a nation, which is you can always lit Chadesh. It's the koach of the woman, who every single day she's a different woman, she's a different person. And it's her biological and spiritual koach that she has the potential to bring life into this world. Now, how does she do this? With her rechem. And what was also this idea of Rachel has one name for her son, and then what? Binyamin changes it? She's making a statement. This is the child of my suffering. I died. And Yaakov's like, no, it's your son, it's your right. But I actually going to say that he wasn't changing, and I'm going to explain why. Rav Moshe Shapiro brings that there's this showish of Aleph, Vav, and a Nun, of Oni. Also, there's three words. There's Aven. Okay, what's an Aven? And it says it's brought down in Zechariah. Also, it has a lot to do with these trafim, and this idea of this concept of this like sheker, this emes. I mean, not this. I'm sorry, a teed of sheker, the future that's a false future, this falsity. So Aven also means sheker. Like it actually means it's coming from deceit or falsehood. There's a lot of parallels. He brings down also in Tehillim, V'nei chabel avan v'hara amal v'yalad shaker. Something with sheker. There's some kind of falsehood. It's not truth. Okay, but we also see that this word, which is when it's written with two vavs, it's an aven. So we had that one as aven, but when it comes into action, Yanenu shel ha'alvon. Okay, it's another word, and what's that word? It says by Moshe Shapiro, it has to do with koach. Actually, it's a koach that you bring into. So what does this mean? It's a koach that actually, if you were to say that the falsehood is I can't change. When I don't bring that koach in. Like, let's say I have a potential for change, I can hold on tight to this and rein the horse in a different direction. I don't have to go in those thoughts all the time just because they're going that way. When I then have this strength in me, but if I don't fulfill the strength, like if I don't, like, a potential that's not actualized, this turns into that sensation of that kind of, it's a koach, but that's not actualized in a good way, which brings you to oni, a suffering. Meaning most people's suffering is because they feel bad that they weren't able to bring something to fruition. I didn't get what I wanted. That makes me suffer. I'm in pain. I can't use God forbid, my leg in the way that it needs. There's some kind of koach, or that koach is being steered into a way, it's causing me suffering. That's why also I always tell women in birth, there's pain and there's suffering. Pain is inevitable, but you suffer when you don't remember that there's a point to your pain. That is called suffering. When you can't sway with the pain and breathe through the pain and realize it's going to end the pain for a new, something will come of this pain, that's mamash suffering, right? So what happened when she named him Binyamin, and she's naming him Ben Oni, okay? So we have, I just want to sum up again. Aven milishon sheker, on milishon koach, it's called on. Ve'oni milishon sar ve'etzev. So we have avan is falsehood, on is koach, and oni is suffering and sadness. All right. So actually, Rachel was saying when she gave birth, she was actually saying that this child is actually going to be a koach. This is what Yaakov understood. He just tweaked the koach a little bit. Instead of that, it's not going to be a koach that is not going to manifest into something. It's going to be a koach of emes, which is yamin, which is the right hand. It's the strength. It's entering into Eretz Yisrael also. And if you look a couple future generations down, the only person who had the koach not to bow down to Haman was Binyamin. Ben Yamin. Yamin is your right hand, and he's known as Yedid. As it's Yedid, which is two yads. Yad. What does it mean? That Binyamin, the tribe of Binyamin, Shevet Binyamin, coming from Rachel Imenu, who was giving up, she was able to mavater so much. She gave, and she also was, what was she mavatering in her life? That even herself, she was supposed to marry Yaakov first. And she said, I'm changing the future of what's that inertia, the younger, the older. I'm accepting what's on Hashem. I'm putting HaKadosh Baruch Hu into the picture, and we're gonna change this a little bit. We're gonna change it. And she's the only one that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to, don't worry, they're coming back. Even though you see right now there's total destruction, and they're not worthy. And if I were to say that the world is just on deen and justice and strict judgment, and the way that the boundaries are set up right now, they're not coming back. But Rachel brings us rachamim. She says upon Hashem, wait a minute, I also had a deen that it was supposed to be like this and it wasn't like this. And in my compassion for my sister, what happened? I took the rachamim, compassion of the womb, and we have otiot machar, which is tomorrow. Then you must realize in your lives where you're just tapping into thinking that either Hashem is Deen, or I need to act like Deen, or this person in front of me is yelling at me, so I have to yell back at them. Measure. Hashem says, change the tune. Make it into machar, is a different time, a different day, and use your yad yamin and make your left into yamin also. Don't dochefoti, don't push away from me, Hashem says. Get close to me with the right and also with the left. And don't bow down to Haman, who is also, he says, if you had thought about the decree that was made, that every single person will be annihilated, right? Imagine you're in a room and they're telling you that the bomb is going off, lo aleinu, that they're machine gunning down to you. And that moment, you're saying, if this is I see the tree, it's death. Because this is the seed that's been planted right now. They told me annihilation. Comes Binyamin, comes Mordechai, and he says, I will not bow down to you. And tefillah, I'm going to daven to you. And tshuva, the moment I do tshuva, which is this whole period from Rosh Hashanah to Zot Chanukah, what's tshuva? Ribono Shel Olam, I'm coming back to you, and I can change. A person who does tshuva, it's as though they didn't even do that. You're a new person. It's the leidah. It's a birth. It's completely and totally changing. And this idea of hitchadshut is so beautiful that I also want you to know something that's more than also just like when you're feeling like you're battling and you're in your head and you're like, I can't get out of this situation. And that could be a physical situation where you're like, how in the world is this ever going to happen? The Geulah is going to come. It can be an emotional situation. It could be a relationship situation where you feel like this is not going to change. You got to tap into that. We, especially as women, have the koach of machal. Tomorrow could be a different reality. And dafka, birth and death and birth, they're not final. We believe it's our fundamental that they're not final. And I forgot. I want to say before I forget, and I'm gonna add, is this is dedicated to Lilu Shmat, my dear friend's brother who passed away 10 years ago, Elchanan Yaakov ben Shmuel Pinchas, and that his yurtzeit was yesterday on Yud Gimel, and my father's yurtzeit is Yud Tet, Shmuel Moshe ben Nehemiah, V'chana Leah, and this should be Lilu Shmatem. That all this Torah and any chiddush that's brought down here that anyone hears this should be for an aliyah of their neshmato. Tam. But I do want to say one thing also, is that it just gives me so much hope. But we're coming to Hanukkah, and there's a couple very powerful things about this month of Hanukkah and real tshuva. Is that in Hanukkah it says that Hadlika Nerot Chanukah, Reshei Te'avot of Anachal is brought down. Okay, in the Sifrei Kodeshim. What's a Nachal? It's a river. That means when I'm looking at the Nerot of Hanukkah, right? Each of those letters, I just made up the word Nachal. What is a Nachal? It's a river. There's Zrima. There's a flow. Number one, I'm tapping to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please don't let me get stuck in anything. I shouldn't get stuck in anything that's causing me to feel like I'm drowning, right? A Nachal flows, and also there's a chiddush of the water all the time. That at any single moment I have to tap into the light of Hanukkah, the light of Kislev, the light of going from Rosh Hashanah, where I'm a new person, new creation, new world, to Hanukkah, and of course there'll be many other opportunities in our lives to always change every day, but it's this beauty of Chiddush, and the Hashmoneh, we're fighting for that. The Yavanim wanted to take away from us the concept of tomorrow can be different, and we even look at our history, and we're sometimes so depressed by our history because history is repeating itself. Here we go again, this is happening again. It's not, we shouldn't look at it that way actually. We should look at it as, okay, it's happening, and how's it now this is gonna be different this time. I'm gonna make it different this time. I'm not gonna get up in the morning. Last winter you had a cold and you're like, oh, I'm gonna appreciate, and then now you have the cold again and you forgot about last winter. No, so this winter is gonna be different. I'm gonna breathe differently. I'm gonna see life differently. I'm gonna light my Chanukah, my Chanukiah, my Chanukah menorah, and I'm gonna ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, let me have always Chiddush. That I should have Chiddush. My family should be tapped into the Chiddush of Torah, of light, and understanding that the flame, right? That ish of that flame, why do we like looking in it so much, as Rav Meir Kohn, is that because every time you look at a flame, it's a new creation. The pitila, the tefillah, actually, which brought the oil up, is making the oil go down, which means that every single second there's a new little tiny bit of drop of oil. It's a new flame. It's so exciting. And not only that, new flame, new colors. Within the fire, within the ash, within the flame, I have so many different colors, so many different ways of looking at life. Right? So B'ezrat Hashem, we should have this, we should be zoche to be able to tap into this power of Macha, which is tomorrow. Understand, where's it coming from? Rachmanes, from Rachamim, from our Rechem, from our wombs, right? We should be able to tap into the idea that I know my battles that I'm fighting are actually going to be the ones that I'm alone. And you do, when you feel lonely, it's the worst battle there is actually. And there I have to roshli, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, my rosh is with you. All the time clinging to you and to your Torah and to your goodness, understanding that Hashem is Tov, Derech Hitiv. He only wants to do good. Can I emulate that also? My situation where I feel like things are crazy and out of control and my thoughts are going into such darkness, can I illuminate it with light, which is adding the Chiddush? Can I look at this in a different situation and realize that just because right now I'm feeling this way does not in any way mean it's a decree that tomorrow or even 5 minutes from now I have to feel the same way. Chiddush all the time. I'm blessing us that we should always have Chiddush. That, and also not to think that something, because it feels like it's dead, I'm telling you, the trees right now, the winter, right? You feel like there's nothing happening. It's the time when all this rejuvenation is actually happening right now. It's the most powerful time. It's such a powerful time right now of the year to tap into. B'ezrat Hashem.